Okay, with Mia Bible, who's the writer and producer of Honorable, winning short film. You're from St. Louis, correct?
I am.
We don't get any films from St. Louis. I'm very happy to see this. We get some films from Kansas City, which is I guess the I-90, right? 90, like 4 hours down the road, right?
Yes.
But not many films from St. Louis, so it's good to chat with you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm really excited about this conversation.
How is the film industry, like the independent film scene in St. Louis?
Well, it's growing. We recently just reinstated our film tax incentive in
Okay.
2023, and so we are actually seeing more short films and feature films coming in. So it's growing as we speak.
That's good to hear. So you are the writer producer of this film. So this a 16-minute short film? Is this a bigger film? I'm like when I was watching it, it seemed like a proof of concept. It seems like an idea for a feature or a television show.
Oh, well, you're right. It actually is a proof of concept for
Yeah.
a 3 episode limited series. So it
Got
is a small pie, a small slice of a bigger pie.
And you've written the 3 episodes already?
Yes, I'm putting like my final touches on it, but it's done.
So tell me about the coming up with this idea for the show. So if I'm putting you on the spot, but if I'm here, we're sitting in a studio, I have some money, pitch me the idea of the show.
Honorable is a story about the ruin and reconciliation of Malcolm X, Shabazz, and Muhammad Ali. Is a story that reimagines Muhammad Ali's last day that he saw Malcolm alive and gives him the opportunity to rewrite history.
Okay, so it's like historical fiction, I guess, in a sense.
It is, it is.
And what's like brought you to tell this story? Because obviously you're young, you weren't alive during this era, one would assume, right? So
Correct.
yeah,
I think the idea of having a second chance to do something better or to do something right is something that's universal with everyone. And I also believe that we all can resonate with grief. Like when I was reading Muhammad Ali's autobiography, he expresses the regret that he had with turning his back on Malcolm. This encounter that happens with Honorable, it happens 9 months before Malcolm X is assassinated.
yeah.
And so Ali never gets that second chance in real life to tell him that he was sorry and that he wished he had listened to him, that he learned that he was right about so many things that Malcolm was teaching him. And so I felt that. I really felt that emotion, and I know what it's like to regret a decision that you made, and you have to live with that for the rest of your life. But
Yeah.
film is a world that we get to create any kind of world with film. And so I wanted to do that when it came to this story.
So, okay, so people who don't know the history, there's a moment actually in the Michael Mann film, right? I'm assuming you saw the film where they chat, Ali and Malcolm X chat. They have a long chat, and he basically Ali like metaphorically goes into the limousine of the and then he turns his back on Malcolm, and then the next scene is that he's Malcolm X is assassinated. That's sort
Right.
of that's their version of the story, right? And sort of like how Ali had a choice to make, right? And he chose his, can I call it superiors, or what his mentors, like how would
Yeah,
I describe Ali? Yeah.
I think at that moment in time, Ali chose, he was young. And so he chose himself, he chose his future, but he also chose the nation.
Yeah,
What
he
I've
chose the
come
nation over Malcolm, over an individual.
Exactly. And I
Yeah,
think what one thing I've learned as this film has been making its rounds is that a lot of people aren't aware of the friendship that Ali and
oh,
Malcolm had.
yeah,
Right. And so we know them as these, giants individually, but they were brothers for 3 years. And in 3 years, a lot happened in their brotherhood. And Malcolm really taught Ali a lot of the ways when it came to the nation and really helped him to be more, I would say, confident and even more outspoken in his blackness and his love for black people. Not to say that he wasn't before, but he just reinforced that as he was mentoring him. And so this story is really about their brotherhood and
yeah.
what it looks like to follow someone and love someone, but then to come to this fork in the road where he Ali also had to choose his safety. Like what a lot of people don't know is that the same day that that Malcolm X was assassinated, Ali had an apartment in Chicago. His Chicago apartment was bombed. Who I don't know, but to
Yeah.
me, like I think for a young 20-year-old who just became the heavyweight boxing champion
Yeah.
and is now slowly becoming the face of the nation, that can be concerning if your apartment is bombed the same day that Malcolm X is assassinated. So I think he was also having to choose like his life and being safe in that way.
Yeah, it's it there like unfortunately only Ali knows certain things, but and he kind of was guarded, like he expressed what took what place, but he didn't go, he would never, like he didn't basically say anything too much negative about the Islam nation, I guess, right? Like he didn't.
Oh yeah, he definitely walked the line.
Yeah.
It wasn't even until the leader of the nation passed away that he ended up converting to Sunni Islam. But I believe he wanted to convert probably before then. But he definitely walked the line when it came to the nation.
So here's a guy, Muhammad Ali, 1960s. It's like 60 years old. It's crazy. But so he Cassius Clay, he basically, like in an upset, huge upset, Sonny Liston defeats this guy that nobody thinks they're going to defeat. He's like what, 21. He's an Olympic gold medalist, so he's got some exposure a little bit. And then he decides to change his name. So that's like basically Patrick Mahomes, like basically now, right? Say I'm gonna change my name to whatever, right? Like I
Hmm.
know uh, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar did the same thing later on, but he's the first one,
Yeah,
right? It's a very like it is now. It's a very divided country, right?
exactly. Yeah,
Yeah,
and it shook everyone. I mean,
yeah,
to make because he was saying publicly, what he had been believing, I would say maybe privately and things that he was learning, but that was I feel like the first public maybe statement of like, this is who I am, this is my identity, and this is what I believe. And everyone didn't like it.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's and he was, see, the thing is though, after I think when in '96 when he like lit the torch for the Olympics, and then he obviously passed away, and it was in 2016, right? It was right before
Yeah.
my daughter it was right before my daughter was born, so it's like a lot of emotions going on for me. And and so like, so his history is revised, right? But back in the '60s, people hated him. Like there's a huge mass of the American culture who did not like this man. Like he was brash, he was black, of course, he was confident. There was like obviously there was not even underlying racism, there was racism towards him. And then he decides to change his name. People were outraged.
Yeah, yeah. And honestly, even in doing my research,
Yeah,
there was things about him that I had to learn. Like growing up, I only heard the positive things about Muhammad Ali. Like I only heard people's love. I didn't really, but wasn't really tapped into how much criticism he received for being someone who was really confident, really bold. He talked a lot. And I think maybe I've read an article about the fact that like it wasn't until Ali's like when his Parkinson's began to take over and just not being able to speak more is when people began to love him more. When he
yeah.
wasn't as vocal about himself is when people started to turn towards him. But yeah, it's like it's encouraging to see someone who was so unmoved in believing in themselves no matter how much
Yeah.
opposition they faced.
And you kind of wonder like who's that now, right? Like,
I think it's a lot of people out there. It's a lot of people who have followed in
but I'm talking
Ali's
about on
steps
that pedestal, on
on
that,
that
who's on that
pedestal.
pedestal, right?
That's a good question. I would have to think about
Because
that.
these athletes, like, not that I'm just generalizing, but these athletes, they have so much writing, they're making so much money, right? And they have endorsements. They can't say anything negative, right? And then because their endorsements are gonna pull them, right? So not, you know what I mean, not negative, but controversial, I should say.
Controversial, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
But I think that we are, I mean, I can't necessarily name someone off the top of my head, but I do think people are beginning to um, do a better job at deciding what they want to be vocal about and being able to count the cost. You know what I'm saying? Like it's worth whatever this is, it's worth me getting that blowback
Yeah.
because it means something for me to be vocal
That's what I'm
about this.
saying, right? Like you don't
Yeah.
like that because everybody's so like they have their publicists, they have and remember it's a different time too. Like Ali,
Yeah.
imagine Ali on Twitter. Yeah.
That would be fun. I would follow him immediately.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
anyway, so okay, let's talk about the film itself. So you have Zachary and Marion, who are your
Mariah.
Ryan, sorry, who are your directors, and I love the style of the film. So you wrote the screenplay, but it's really cool the way you went from black and white to color and the way you kind of did the transitions. Was that always in your vision to do it like that?
Yes, that was always in my mind. That's how I wrote it in the script because I knew that I wanted a visual representation of what was happening in the story. I knew I was taking one moment in history, and then after that, I'm going to reimagine everything. And so it was like, how do I show this without telling? Because we know, like film, you show, you don't tell. And
Yeah.
so transitioning to color was something that I knew from the very beginning I wanted it to do.
So thematically, when like we're in black and white when with their relationship, I guess, right? Malcolm's
Yes.
and Ellie's relationship, and then we're in that's sort of like he's like looking back, and then we're in color when we're in present time, and then he's dealing with his stuff. Is that
Exactly.
it?
It's
Yeah.
right. So we turn to color. So in the way that history records it, is
Yeah.
that when Ali and Malcolm are in Ghana and they have that pivotal meeting at the hotel, Ali turns his back and then he never sees Malcolm again. But it's
Yeah.
at that moment that I decide, well, wait, that's where I want to change it. And I use Maya Angelou, who was in Ghana at the time. She was there as well when all this was going on. I want to use her to shift that moment and for her to privately set up a meeting where Ali and Malcolm
Gotcha.
will talk later. And so that's when the film changes to color.
And then that's in the end, like, and then you have the scene in the end of the film where it's interesting the way you staged that too, because like he's at least standing up, and then Malcolm's like stays in his seats, like kind of he gets up eventually, but like the first couple minutes, like there's like a power dynamic, right? And then
Yeah,
Ali,
and it,
yeah, go ahead.
and I mean, kudos to Mariah Richardson, who was the director of principal photography, and then Zach, who came on. Like the way that they both, like Mariah, how she directed the actors in that moment, and then also how Zach, directed it in post as far as having those different angles, and then seeing like the shadow and like the thunder, like all those, the timing of that moment. I just can't give my like clap enough when it comes to Zach and Mariah and how they worked that moment.
So where did you meet? How did you guys collaborate? How did you guys meet and get this film off the ground?
Yeah, so I'm also an actor, and
Oh, you're in
me
the
and
film, right?
I am. So I portray Maya Angelou in the film. And so we met. Mariah is a playwright, and she's also someone who's worked in film and works in film now. And so I met her. I was an actor in one of the plays that she wrote. And then Zach, I met him like in the acting scene. And so we've known each other for years. And Zach was someone who I always knew that when it came to this role of Ali, when the story really began to like form, I always knew that he was going to play Ali. Like he just carried that, and also I also knew about his love and his knowledge of Ali, and so that's where we met. We all met within the acting world.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And then so getting casting Ali and Malcolm are, it's they're real life people. We know who they are. Even if we're in this generation, the names Muhammad Ali and Malcolm X are part of our pulp culture even now. So you have to cast them. How did you find the people to play those two roles?
Well, when it came to Zach and Jason J. Little, who plays Malcolm X, we had worked together as actors. And so I had seen Jason actually portray Malcolm in theater. And
Okay.
so there was a play called In the Meeting where he plays Malcolm X. And it was just a phenomenal performance. And he's someone he's one of my favorite actors. He's amazing. And so I already knew what they could do. So when it came to the leads, that was already done. And then when it came to and Maya, what's funny is that originally I wasn't considering myself to play Maya Angelou. It wasn't until a previous director of mine, he read the screenplay and he was like, "Well, you're gonna play Maya, right?" I was like, sure. Maybe he's like, "You're definitely playing Maya." I was like, okay. And so then the rest, Erica Walker, who also is our casting director, she took on the rest and casted the remaining roles.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Well, it's a great job because it's like it's hard to get in the skin of those characters, right? Because everybody's got their preconceived notion, and then there's other people who play those roles. Like
Hmm.
Denzel played Malcolm X, Will Smith played Ali. Like these are
Yeah.
two giant actors, right? So, but it's like you got it. But I think that the audience, or including like I'm calling myself the audience, I got into the story. I basically I went into your imagination and I felt that these two characters were who they were. So
Thank you. That's a tremendous compliment. I really do appreciate it.
it's not easy,
It's
right?
not.
So
It's not. And especially just for, someone like me, I'm a first time filmmaker, and so I'm learning as I go. And so much of what it means when you have an idea about this, you want to connect with people who believe in it. You want to connect with people who see the vision. And I'm also just like as the cherry on top, I'm able to, have people, actors who are just phenomenal in being able to portray these roles and tell such an honest story.
yeah, and it's you got a huge cast. Like I'm sorry, huge credit roll. There's a lot of people involved in this film.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. We had honestly anyone that was willing to help, we asked for their help. And I think also that just comes with being new, right? And
Yeah,
so for me as a filmmaker, um, learning like what roles can double, what roles you shouldn't double. But yeah, we had a lot of support and we had a lot of people who were willing to help us film this in 2020. Like we filmed this in like COVID hit. And so we were out there in the summer of 2020 making this proof of concept.
oh really? Wow.
Yeah, yeah, we were supposed to go into production, I would say around like April, but it was as we were in pre-production, that's when St. Louis was hit with the shelter in place orders. And so we had to make a decision on like what is important, what is essential to us. And so we were gearing up like a crowdfunding campaign and everything. And that's when I just made the decision like I want to move forward. Like I really believe in this and this is something that is really important to me. And I'm fortunate that I have so many other people who trusted my decision when it comes to this, who knew that I would do it in a way that would keep everyone safe and who
Yeah,
really believed that the arts needed to be supported, especially during this time, and didn't need to be shut down in that way.
yeah.
Yeah,
Well, yeah. It's but it's difficult too, right? Because you don't want people to get sick. You don't want at that time. You don't want people to get COVID. Right.
exactly. And so we had to stock up. We had so many people who supported us with getting PPE. We made sure that it wasn't until after the shelter in place orders were lifted that we
Yeah.
filmed. And so we really went the extra step to making sure people were safe.
This is before the vaccine too, right? So
Yeah, yeah,
yeah. There's a great shot in the first, like I think in the 4 minute mark where you like basically they're bonding, they're hugging, and then nice touches of filmmaking where like you see in the background the nation, the representations of the nation in the background, and Malcolm is basically sensing those people, and then you kind of push the camera back, and he knows that this relationship is forever over, right? And then you
yeah,
go into color. Then you move into color.
yeah.
It's a brilliant filmmaking scene. It's like really great.
Thank you. Shout out to Nkosi Roma, who was our DP for this project. And I mean, he just really brought such a phenomenal eye and his skill when it comes to handling that camera. And so I love that moment as well.
Yeah. So when you wrote it and you have this revision, like you have this like scene, do you think this scene took place in real life?
I've I've talked to some people who were friends of different individuals that were alive during this time. And I also had the opportunity to speak directly to Alice Wyndham. So there are people who are not as known as Malcolm and Ali,
Yeah,
but were there in that moment. And so Maya Angelou was there, but her best friend, who was also a scholar, her name is Alice. Not only was she there in that moment, she was also the one who created Malcolm's itinerary for Ghana. So she's a big reason why he was even in Ghana for this moment to happen, right?
yeah,
And so I've had conversations where some people are like, oh, it may not have happened exactly like that.
yeah.
But I do believe that they had a moment where they, I don't know, could have reconciled or maybe just cleared things up. But because of the position that Ali was in, because Malcolm was also silenced. Like at this time, Elijah had put out an order to the nation not to speak to Malcolm. No one could speak to Malcolm. So Ali fell under that order and he made a decision to not like look his way to turn his back on him. And so that was also something that like came to mind when I was writing this.
Yeah, it's like it's fair to say it's messed up, right?
It
So
is. It's messed up. It is.
it's
It's
all about
heartbreaking.
all about power, control, ego. Like
Yeah.
it's just religion. It's just like, there.
Yeah, yeah. It is, it's heartbreaking because I think about like in my time of doing my research about this, I found a stream of Ali's funeral, so when he passed away and they had like live streamed that, um there was, I believe, Malcolm's oldest daughter spoke at Ali's funeral, and she mentioned how I think her quote was like Ali, something around the something like Ali's life or maybe her relationship like continued the breath of Malcolm. But I think what she was trying to say is that she was still able to like get to know her father because she sustained a relationship with Ali even long after Malcolm was assassinated,
Yeah.
you know? But it's stuff like that that is super heartbreaking to see how their brotherhood was um like deconstructed because of the nation and yeah, just basically what was going on at that time.
And we just like it's so these are good. I think these are important. I think it would be a great miniseries, like as you described, because it's important to like learn from these people that like they're flawed. They're human beings and they're flawed, right? They're
Yeah,
not perfect, and they're like this is not good. Like it's like and there's so many parallels to today. I don't want to get in too much into it, but basically there's so many parallels that are occurring today.
exactly. And that literally it can shift the trajectory of your life when it comes to like a relationship and how you handle it in that moment because you know tomorrow isn't promised to anyone.
Yeah.
So yeah, it is. You want to learn from history so you don't repeat it.
And you're young. You like it's like you don't. I don't know how I was doing in my 30s. I'm sorry, in my 20s. Like I think I
Yeah.
was already in slip. Maybe I didn't know what I was doing in my 30s either. But basically, it's like he said there's so much writing on these guys, right? And now he's changing his identity in so many ways, right? So
Yeah, he was faced with a lot. Like, at no point do I want people to think that he had to make an easy decision. And then also, like you said, he was young. So it's
yeah,
so much about like what position are you putting yourself in? Like, I don't think that Ali, it was easy for Ali to turn his back on Malcolm. It clearly wasn't. But
no,
I also want to explore what it looks like to reconcile that. Because one thing I think about filmmaking, and I think a lot of times Black filmmakers, they may not feel so like super encouraged to revisit our past, because of obvious reasons. So we'll do Afrofuturism and things like that, which is a great genre in filmmaking. But I also want to say like you don't have to keep things the same when it comes to film. And so it's like, what is your intention behind it? And so I really do want to explore the idea of Malcolm and Ali being able to heal in film what couldn't be healed in real life.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, congratulations on the film, and this is your like you said, you're just getting into filmmaking, and it seems like everybody's kind of got together to make this film. And if it's your first film, I can't wait to see what you do next.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
You have any plans for the future?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, acting is my first love, and so that is where I'm always going to be and where people can find me. But I do have some stories when it comes to filmmaking that I still want to tell, like the limited series when it comes to Honorable. There's some more historical stories that I think I want to dive into as well.
Yeah, but you went through the whole process from like development, writing, pre-production, production, then you did post.
Yeah.
Now we're now we're doing distribution.
Yeah.
It's a marathon, isn't it?
It really is. It really is. It's not for the weak.
What's your favorite step in the process?
Development. I love writing.
Okay. And least favorite
100%.
is this conversation, the distribution?
Yes, yes, it's something that I'm learning. I'm learning to love, and so I would say, development and production. So writing the story and being able to act in the story, I'll do
Yeah.
that all day. I'll do that all
Okay.
day.
That's amazing. All right. Congratulations. Let's talk again when you make your next film or if you're in acting in something. I think that this film is fantastic and we won Best Short at our festival and I wish the best of success for you.
Thank you so much for this opportunity. It was great talking to you.